This session is about how to create environments where kids can learn and grow. So the best environment is a nap environment. So for the next 45 minutes, we're just going to take a nap.
Yes.
So I'm kidding. But naps are biblical, all right? If anybody tells you not, just share the passage where Jesus is napping on the boat. Anyway, so this session is going to be a little bit interactive. I am going to kind of read through this, and I don't mean to insult your intelligence with this, but I'm going to read through stuff, and I want you to begin to think about kids in your ministry. And while this can apply, I'm a kids pastor, but this is for both youth and kids ministries, right? So I love with today's kid, and here's something that sometimes we don't think about. A lot of our kids today are a couple years behind.
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic. You see it in your youth ministry. You have seniors that act like sophomores, right? They're like, you should not be crying over this, all right? But while I'm talking, there are apples and candy in the back. So if you want any of that, feel free to. I'm not offended if you get up and move. If you get up and walk out, maybe you had a phone call, or maybe I'm just not a good enough teacher. So, and I'm okay with that because I'm still growing as a person, all right? So no offense. I'm just going to pray real quick, and then we'll jump into this. This will be a little interactive at the end because I want you to dream for your ministries and when it comes to your kids. You know your kids better than I know your kids. I probably may only know one or two of your kids if they were at Fine Arts last year. But Pastor Aaron knows your kids, but there's nobody better than you, the local church pastor, that knows your kids. And so I don't care if you have 1, 2, 5, or 100 kids in your ministries. You should get to know them, and this will help you understand some of your kids, because there might be some kids that you're like, man, I absolutely love you. And there might be some kids where you're like, I just sometimes wish you would go to the AG church. I'm kidding. So let's pray. Lord, I thank you again for a wonderful day here in North Dakota. Lord, I thank you for the leadership that believes in investing in their leaders, equipping and empower them to lead their local church at a level that you desire. Father God, I thank you for the last session, and I thank you for those leaders that were here, and I thank you for this session, Lord, that you would help us to think about our kids, to be able to create environments where they can encounter you in a life-changing way each and every week. Lord, we love you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. So this is all based, today's session is based really out of Howard Gardner's book, Multiple Intelligences. And for me, this was actually a workshop that I learned probably about 16 years ago. You'd be like, man, how does this apply to today's kid? It does, I promise you. As we begin to talk about it, one of my leaders at a conference that we hosted at our church, it wasn't even us hosting it, it was another denomination hosting it. I just happened to be the room moderator and got to hear this be taught. So multiple intelligence is something that we all have. We all have different ways that we learn, we grasp things. For me, as I read through these, you'll quickly see which one I am, and you'll obviously start thinking about which ones you are. But as I'm reading through these, I want you to begin thinking about the kids in your ministry. Because it all of a sudden the aha moments for us and how they operate. We know we have multiple, we have the different love languages, right? But kids have different multiple intelligences on how they learn. So if you think of kids when you're doing nothing but preaching, how many of you are youth pastors and you do 45-minute messages? Anybody? Good for you. Good for you. But when you started, maybe you did 45-minute messages and you learn real quick that 20 minutes was stops, right? Or a kids pastor that does the same thing every week. It's the same routine, and the same kids during certain segments always act up or do stuff. This will help you learn about it real quickly of, oh, this might be the thing, and I'll share some examples throughout this. So as we learn through the multiple intelligence, these are the ones that are here. They've come up with more since then. I believe these are the ones that are out of Howard Gardner's research and development of this that I stick with. There's other ones that have changed certain words. There's stuff with today's society and gender stuff that I'm just not bringing into the church world. So again, bear with me. I know you can read. At least some of us can. I'm not the best, so I may stumble over my words. But so the first one is the linguistic intelligence. Now, these aren't in any particular way. It's just how it's laid out in the book. This is your word smart or book smart kids. These are the kids that bring their Bibles every week. We still have kids that bring their physical paper Bible, right? Think about those. Or the young lady that brings her book to read in the back of the room because she's just not going to engage anyway. But she's got that. So linguistic intelligence or word smart is the ability to understand words both written and spoken and effectively use them. This intelligence involves understanding language and words, including idioms and wordplay, and its sociocultural nuances. People with linguistic intelligence tend to have great skills for reading, writing, and speaking. They enjoy literature, creative writing, telling stories, or even word brain games. How many of you had students do fine arts just recently, and they did poetry? This would be that word smart type of thing. My daughter is one of these types of kids. She just wrote something out for her paper, for her explanation of her artwork for fine arts. It's the first time doing fine arts outside of dad being there. And so she did some artwork. But on the back of it, she pretty much preached the message. I'm like, holy cow, you can write. But these are the ability to think of words, expressive, complex meaning, enjoy reading and writing, remember written and spoken words. These are the kids that when you do a memory verse, they learn it immediately. Like, boom, I got it. Well, I don't even have it, I just read it. I got it. They're good at debates and speeches. These are the kids who are going to argue with you. Yes, I do need to go to the bathroom again. No, I don't have to listen to you. My mom says. Right? These are the ones that do that. So it's fun to think about these kids because they're very influential in our ministry. Because sometimes they'll also be the kids that are out, like before service, arguing with other kids about how to play the game. Your trading card game over there, you can look at that later, but these will be the kids that we argue about. Like, no, this is how the game should be played. I read the rules. These are the people that actually read the instructions when you put something together. Anybody ever buy IKEA furniture? Don't read the instructions, just play the rules. There's always extra pieces in them, and they do it to mess with you, all right? So the next one is the visual spatial. This is the art, picture smart. A lot of guys would be this way is when it comes to the visual type stuff like media, all those kinds of things. But the visual spatial intelligence is the ability for visual and spatial judgment. It's the ability to work in 3 dimensions, picture concepts, mind spatial reasoning, graphic, and artistic skills. Sculptors, artists, designers, architects, all exhibit this, while pilots, sailors, navigators exhibit the ability to understand and navigate a wide space. I'm thankful for pilots because I can sleep while they fly, right? I spend enough time on planes that I'm thankful. Like when we hit the runway, my first thing I do is I pray for my pilot. I'm thankful that God gave them the gifts and abilities to touch those buttons to make the plane fly, right? I don't know how they fly. I've never been in a cockpit. But they have the gifts and abilities to know that there's other planes up in the air that they should run into each other, right? And so I'm thankful for that. These people have the kind of intelligence, they draw, paint, design, work with clay and creative patterns. They have an inclination and knack for solving visual puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, mazes, and drawings. If you're in kids ministries, you've done it. You've taken you've cut out in front of a cereal box and you made a puzzle game with it. Those are the kids that do it really quick, and while the other kids are like arguing over it. Like, no, this is the way it's supposed to go. But they're able to do it. They're good at, they're constantly drawing stuff. They're doodling. I was sharing about the card game. There was a girl, as I was telling kids about the card game in New Jersey, she created a card. All the while I'm talking, while she's paying attention to me. They're taking notes in creative ways. They're drawing different things. Again, I know my daughter is that, like in church, she brings a notebook. I do my notes on my phone. She's drawing out stuff and like drawing a picture of the pastor preaching, so like very creative in that. And so they're just the way they think, the way they learn. The next one, the logical mathematical intelligence. This is definitely not me. I am not. I mean, I love numbers. I love learning about stuff, but when it comes to this particular one, it's like these are smart kids. Okay, I'm just going to say it outright. Okay, these are the kids that we sat next to in class and cheated off of. Okay, I did. All right. Got my amen, brother, right there? All right. Logical mathematical intelligence gives the ability to analyze and solve problems, perform calculation, recognize patterns, thoughts, numbers, visuals, and carry out with logic. People with this intelligence tend to think abstractly in patterns and concepts. They apply logic, math, and numbers and different things. They're drawn towards working with numbers, solving math puzzles, love to solve complex problems. Their characteristics, exceptional problem-solving skill, good with calculations, good with analyzing situations. These are also the kids that are really good at knowing where the books in the Bible are. They got their page numbers memorized, right? That's like they open up the Bible, they go to index, page 148, Psalms. Boom. Like maybe it's not that, but I'm just throwing out numbers. But the problem solving skills, when you're doing stuff within your ministry, you give them an opportunity. So these would be like at camp when you're trying to do the Amazing Race, and there's a complex problem, this is the one that helps solve it. They're typically quiet, but when they speak, people listen because they're typically right. When it comes to problem solving stuff. In my office, Eric Hoffman is very much this. He is so good at this kind of stuff. I'll throw that stuff out. I'm like, I can't think about this. Sometimes because I just want to see if I can trump him or stump him, but he's good at it, and it helps our ministry in a lot of ways. So that's another one of those learning styles that our kids have. And some of these kids in these first three, like these definitely are not me. Can I just say that and be okay with it? Now, there are times where I like to read books. And it's typically when God says, I want you to grow through something. I love art. I'm not an artist. Like when I was a kid in elementary in the 80s, we had clay modeling class. And we wanted to make something, I always wanted to make something beautiful for my mom, like a vase or something like that. It typically turned into an ashtray. And so that's just, and my mom was a smoker, so it worked. But that's it. And then the math stuff. As I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate numbers a lot better. I was just talking with one of our friends in the room about statistics for missionaries and learning the numbers of what's going on and stuff. So the next one is bodily kinesthetic intelligence, the body movement. I misspelled that, I apologize. Bodily kinesthetic is the ability to have excellent motor skills and physical dexterity. It provides body awareness and mind-body union. This makes people effectively perform tasks that require body actions, physical skills, perfect timing. Athletes, dancers, actors, craft, like professionals like surgeons, they all exhibit this. Their characteristics are right there: mind-body coordination, great muscle memory, skilled in sports and dancing. I've been into this realm quite a bit as a kid. Even today, like natural things when it comes to sports. Like I'm not amazing at basketball, but I can play basketball. I found out real quickly that I wasn't great at baseball because I couldn't hit the ball, but I can run track like no other. Football, whole different game. Like that was my jam. Like you see people like in the NFL, like an Odell Beckham Jr., who was famous in, because of a catch. He's not a great wide receiver, but he has great body control over himself. Quarterbacks, dancers, you think of gymnasts, like these gals that are like 2'2", that can do all these kinds of things, jumping off the trampoline and stuff. But these are the kids in church that are constantly moving, right? The kids that are like in their chairs and tapping their feet nonstop. You're like, would you just knock it off? But they're moving, but they have to be moving in order to learn. And so having that movement. And so these are the kids that love the garbage can game. If you know, right? The garbage can, that's their jam. Anything that is moving and running, they're the kid that you're sending to capture the flag, right? So we'll move on to the next one. The musical intelligence, sound and music. In the last session I talked about singing. I love music. In my car, I'm still a teenage boy. Our car got stolen last Christmas, and in my Jeep, I had it custom done to where my sound system was hidden. I took out the spare tire and put in subs. Gotta have good music when you're going, right? And everybody has to know that when you're coming. Right? In my new car, I have a 12-inch sub in the back of it. So I love music. I'm not good at music. Can't play guitar. I can play a harmonica a little bit. I can blow into it. I can play a kazoo like there's no tomorrow. But it's not me. Musical intelligence is the ability to understand, create, and reproduce sounds, pitch, rhythm, tone. And in the initial research of emotional intelligence, musical intelligence mostly revolved around music and rhythm, but it was later accepted into the auditory, vibratory intelligence as it deals with a wide area of sound and vibration patterns. People with this musical intelligence have an ear for music, sounds and environment, and rhythmic patterns. This intelligence is exhibited by composers, musicians, vocalists. These are the kids that walk into the room and go, hey, that instrument's off. While your worship team is practicing, they're like, actually, they're probably the 14-year-old that's running sound. Let's be honest. Or the kid in kids' church that covers their ears up because it just sounds a little weird. Or the first grader that sings really well. Or, just all these pieces that you're like, wow. Like, I remember when my daughter was very young, and I owe her monies every time I mention daughter. So, just so you know. When she was young, like 2-3 years old, I was like, God, I prayed for her to have a good singing voice. but then she got into kindergarten, her voice started developing. I'm like, man, how can you have more talent than me? Maybe because as we were praying, we were like, put a lot of good stuff in her. And now she has a beautiful musical voice. She also wants to learn instruments, but she hears music differently than I hear music. I just want bass. I want guitar solos. She wants the whole range. She likes listening to symphony and all other stuff. My wife doesn't listen to that stuff, but she does. These are the kids that are in your worship teams early. They're the kids that are learning to play instruments. They're doing different things. They understand sounds and musical pattern, the rhythms and notes. These are also kids, when it comes to melodic aesthetic, those kids can dance, the melodic aesthetic, but these are the ones that actually dance with control. They know when, like, you see the kids that can't, that are waiting for the drop, and they miss it. These kids hit it correctly, all right? The next one, interpersonal intelligence, and again, we will get through this quickly and get to some talking through this discussion stuff, is the people smart. The intrapersonal intelligence refers to intelligence and behavior where among people, it's the intelligence to understand others and interact effectively. Hence, people with interpersonal intelligence are called people smart. They have the ability to analyze emotions, motivations, moods, desires around them that help them to manage relationships. People with interpersonal intelligence can easily be spotted in crowds by their skills to communicate, handle social situations, and sensibility to others. Characteristics, you can see them there: skilled verbal, non-verbal communication, great at maintaining relationships, active listeners, empathetic, can persuade and resolve conflicts. A lot of times pastors are these people, right? They understand how to read people. I think there's some, like, they're people smart. I grew up on the streets. There's book smart and street smart, right? There's people that are very knowledgeable about stuff, and then there's the kid that gets that knowledgeable person to do everything for them. That was me. Very much so, like understanding how to deal with people. These a lot of times be the person that's the person that's telling all the stories, having all the conversations, having those people around them. They're typically the person too when there's conflict that people come to. Say, hey, can you help us sort this out? The next one is intrapersonal. The introspective smart, interpersonal intelligence is the ability to understand oneself, their own thoughts and feelings. It involves self-awareness, aware of inner world and belief, and using it to direct life. They have excellent self-awareness. These are the kids in your kids' ministries, your youth ministries, that are never dirty. They're typically matched from the top to the bottom. They're typically well put together. They understand the pieces that they want. They like to analyze their thoughts and ideas, so they're typically not quick to speak. But just like the mathematical ones are probably the ones that people listen to when they do speak, because what they have to say is really, really good. I had a leader in Montana. His name's Jamie Stahl. Great guy. In our youth reps meetings, all these other guys would be chiming in and chiming stuff, and Jamie would sit there quietly, and then I'd finally go, Jamie, what do you think? And typically when other people would be talking, people would be talking too. But when Jamie spoke, people shut up and listened. Jamie was this kind of person who thought deeply, thought about things, thought about everything involved in it. Or a lot of times people would think personal preference. Jamie thought about everybody's preference. And it was fun to be that, because he was aware of things about it, and he understood his motivations. These people are also great at analyzing strength and weaknesses. The person that's above there, the intrapersonal, they don't care about their strength and weaknesses. They're going after it, right? This person might not put themselves out there because they know where their strengths are and they know where their weaknesses are, and they're going to stay within those because they understand themselves. They know that they're not the one that's going to go out and try and, do crazy stuff. And anyway. Last one is the naturalistic intelligence. This intelligence gives humans the sensibility to flora, fauna, and other elements of nature. It's when Gardner created it, was the latest introduction to this. This intelligence was highly aware and interested in nature, learning about different species of plants and animals in the environment. Such people enjoy camping, hiking, gardening, similar outdoor activities. In the past, the humans possessed the high naturalistic intelligence as hunters, farmers, gatherers. And today, professionals such as biologists, botanists, zoologists, farmers, and gardeners display this intelligence. They're interested in all those things, science or animals and nature. These are the kids that want to bring their dog to church, or their cat, or their goldfish. They're the ones that on their cell phones they have a picture of their dog, or every time there's an animal they have to stop and pet it, or when there's flowers, just different pieces. And so these are all the intelligences. And so how does this play into what we do on a week-to-week basis? Well, we have to create environments for our kids to encounter God in a life-changing way. I don't care what church you're at. That's the goal of what you do. Whether you're a kids pastor, youth pastor, or lead pastor. And I remember after I did this session, I went back to my lead pastor and I was like, Pastor, do you ever think about people's multiple intelligences when you're creating a message? He goes, all the time. Because in my audience, I have the guy that doesn't even want to be there that I have to try and impact. And then I have the person that might know the Bible better than me. And then I have the person that is constantly tapping stuff in the front row. And he goes, that's my wife. And so he goes, yes, I do. And he goes, how do you know about it? And I said, well, I just read about it, learned about it. We have environments that we have to create. Now, in a lead pastor scale, it's a little bit differently. But if you think about it, in an adult service, let's start there. In an adult service, there's typically a countdown or something that welcomes them to church. The church I attend, it has a video that says, these are the 5 things to expect from our service. And it's a video, and then it says, if you have little ones, you can take them here. And all of a sudden, the band comes out, and right? That sound grabs a person's attention. Typically the person that's talking all the time, that's me. And all of a sudden you're in there, and then they have someone on the screens, there's clapping and moving, there's words, right? So all of a sudden we're hitting all these different multiple intelligence, and the pastor comes up and preaches. He doesn't just come up and speak in certain ways. Like our pastor actually uses object lessons. As a big kid, it's really nice for me because he uses object lessons. He was never a kid's pastor, but I'm so thankful that he has object lessons because now I can connect things together. But there's different ways that we learn. So then we think about our let's say a kids service. We have a countdown typically. Maybe it's a cleanup song or whatever it might be. And then we have somebody that starts, hey, welcome to kids church, it's gonna be a good day. Or we start with the church clap, shame on you. I'm kidding, no shame. I've been there. It's a crutch. Because maybe you're doing youth ministry, shame on you. I'm kidding. But we start with a person. And then there's a typical service with kids ministries, and if I'm wrong, you can correct me because maybe you don't do it this way. But it's worship, memory verse, object lesson, main point, small group, go home. Normal rhythm and thing like that. Youth ministries, countdown, worship, somebody talks for a few minutes, pastor preaches, maybe small groups. We get into a rhythm where we're creating. But as we create those rhythms, we should use the intelligence to think about the kids that we're ministering to. So who are the kids in your ministry? So what I want to do is just to have you take a few moments, and I want you to go through this. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. I want you to go through this and read through those and write down the names of the kids that you feel are in those multiple intelligences. Because then after we get too close to the end, you'll be able to create a service that will be able to apply to all kids. Where sometimes we might only hit, if we're only doing a certain thing that's nonstop movement, we might be missing the mark with some of our kids in our ministries and the opportunities to minister to them. So let's take five minutes, and you can do more homework at home if you want as you're doing this. I don't see a whole lot of teams in here, but if you got someone that's part of your ministry team or a spouse, talk with them. But just write down a few kids' names. Because the fun part about this is now you have to think about the kids in your ministry. And if you don't know their names, you need to get to know them. So, and you might be new, and this might be a good way for you to think about it. So just take a few moments to do that. I'm going to add a piece to that. Also think of the leaders that are in your ministry. And their learning styles as well. One more minute. All right, let's jump back in here, because we only have a little bit of time left, but I want you to be able to just show it. I'm gonna ask you a question before I jump into your kids. What learning style are you?
I texted my husband because I feel like sometimes it's really hard to like pick yourself out. He was not helpful. He was like, well, you have some of everyone. And I was like, great. But I think I would probably, I don't know, there's people in here that know me well. I think I would probably be like the interpersonal intelligence, people smart.
Agreed.
And
Thank you.
don't pin yourself in just one, because we all have different stuff. Sometimes we go through seasons where there's one style that we really learn in, but then there's seasons where it's multiple styles. So like, and I don't do it how you write the kids' names down to just pin them into one area.
Right.
Because you might have a kid, you're like, oh, they're in this one, they're in this one, they're in this one, they're in this one. Or this leader's in this one. So sometimes you have a leader that you're like, hey, you should be up front. And they shouldn't be up front. Right? And like, you should be not even a small group leader. But you're here, and we love you, so why don't you run media? Just kidding. Maybe I'm not kidding. There's some that media is probably the place for them. But as you think through the different kids, here's a fun piece. Because what I love, I heard up here, like the two of you talking through, because I could hear you a little bit better than everybody else. I can hear everybody's stuff going on in our mouths thinking about your kids. Because it makes you think about your kids throughout the week as you begin to build stuff. But you're talking through like, yes, this one, no, this one. And right? So what I would love for you to do is go back and take this to your teams and sit down and work together and say, hey, because now you're involving them on it, you're building that culture, that environments to where they're learning. All of a sudden, one of your leaders might go, you know what, I really would love to lead a different area. Because now they see something, or I would love to take on this group of kids. Because I think that I could fit with this group. I'm leading this group and I love them. But there's a certain group of kids over here that I might be able to lead them. And it's the fun part because, as I said earlier, I might not be for all the kids. But I find leaders that can pour into those kids. And because God created us all different. I am wild and crazy. Like there are certain kids that are shy that just can't handle me. Some of it could be because they've had a bad experience with somebody that's been loud and crazy, obnoxious. Or maybe they still want to be embarrassed by their dad all the time. Like it's okay. Like I know that I'm gonna be their friend. Just because I might not connect with them on that kind of level, I'm still gonna love them. I'm still gonna pray for them. I'm still gonna take them along on that journey because they're a part of the responsibility that we have within our local church. We have a responsibility to create environments for kids to want to come. And if all we do is we do stuff just for the bodily kinesthetic, all we do is games, and keep a small amount of the Bible, those kids that want deeper relationship are gonna go across the street. They might even not go to the Assemblies of God church. They're gonna go to the place where that pastor has thought about their feelings and their learning style. Now, I don't think a single kid goes, man, I'm linguistic intelligence. Maybe the linguistic intelligent kids might know because their words, they might know that, right? They might know that they're intrapersonal, but most kids don't know. They think I'm outgoing or I'm shy or I'm filled with anxiety, I'm filled with fear, I'm filled with doubt. But when we create places for them to learn, to knock down the walls, because we said, hey, I thought about you this week. As I was working with my team, we built a Wednesday night service that was for everybody. Will there be times where it might seem this way? Outreach night, which is more game and those kinds of things? Yeah. But there's gonna be times where the bodily kinesthetic goes, man, I just wish we could like move for just a minute. Like we're being really introspective. And our pastor's making me think about stuff. And they didn't use a video screen today. I love TV. I don't watch it a whole lot, but I play a lot of Fortnite on it. But I learn with my eyes and my hands. I want to do it and I want to see. I don't want you to just tell me how to do it. So I don't read instructions and stuff. It's probably why I'm frustrated half the time putting stuff together. Like these two match up. Well, they don't go together. That's why I have my wife. Because she's reading instructions while I'm doing stuff, telling me how to do it. She's like, also, did you measure it? Well, she also goes, how much did you spend on it? Because she's the mathematical person. Because she takes care of our budget. But as we learn our different kids, we begin to create environments to where they learn in ways that they've never learned before. And it makes it exciting for them to come back because the intrapersonal person that typically will just come by themselves and not have a bunch of friends come, all of a sudden starts to invite the friends that they're with at school, saying, hey, you should come to this place because they think about us. Or the math person, where you give kids opportunities to do hands-on stuff and do different pieces. Or the nature things, where maybe you do like in kids ministries, the church that I attend, they did a puppy bowl. Listen, we have a dog and a cat in my house. Not to say I swerve for pets, but I don't care for pets. We have a dog and a cat in my house because I'm married. My wife wanted a dog, my daughter wanted a cat. My daughter, very strategic, made a mailbox, put a letter in 10 reasons why she should have a cat. I very confidently went to our homeowner and said, hey, I know it was a stretch to get the dog. My daughter, and I gave him the note, he says, David, as much as I did struggle with your dog, I'm a cat lover, especially rescues. So yes, you can have a cat. By the time I texted them, they were already down at the pet place getting the cat. And I love the stupid cat. And I love the dog. Why? Because I love my wife and daughter. But will we get another one? No. The best pet we had was the bearded dragon, because he chased the dog, and it was funny. But we create these environments where we think about our kids. For me as a young pastor, it changed the whole way I'm thinking about it. Even as I became a director of camps, thinking about the different environments that we have at camp, we know that there's some kids that are never gonna play a game at camp. We know on Wednesday night there's gonna be 2 or 3 teenage girls that are like, nope, that game is not for me. But that's okay, because something else in your service will be for them. It's as we create those environments, create those opportunities, now they can even speak into them a little bit. Hey, we really enjoy that. Like, pull your kids. What are some things you love about youth group? Don't ask them what they hate, because they're gonna make a long list and it's gonna hurt your feelings. Okay? Because they're just gonna say hateful things, just say hateful things, just to mess with your mind. What are things you love about youth ministries? There's gonna be some kids that are gonna be like, I love the community, I love this, but then you're gonna have kids that write really deep things that make you think, man, we should add more of those. Now, you don't swing the pendulum all the way over here just to that group, because you're gonna miss everybody. And every week, you're not gonna hit every group. But as you create environments and you do things, all of a sudden you have the opportunity to miss your kids in a way that you've never done before. You're gonna see kids come in that may have never gone to your youth group. You know, like, people always said, how come the sporty youth groups have a whole bunch of people in there? Like my first youth pastor that I served alongside Brian, they had almost 500 students come on a Wednesday night. And it was the biggest zoo you ever saw. There were kids with skateboards out front, kids smoking pot in the corner, artsy kids, athletic kids. Why? Because Brian understood who he's ministering to. His events throughout the year were for everybody. He would do a quarterback challenge night where they would invite quarterbacks from all over the county to come in and do some stuff. Well, who does that bring in? Everybody. Then they would do art nights where they would do Battle of the Bands. But out in the foyer, there was a whole art gallery. So kids could bring their art as long as within good taste. They couldn't scream and cuss. They could scream. There was some scream romance, but they couldn't cuss, right? So there was those kinds of things. But he had all this melting pot of kids. Well, the new guy came in, he was only an athlete. So everything he did was athletics. And the youth group went from 500 to 150 in less than a year. Mm. The next person came in, he was very artsy. And when I say artsy, he was very musically talented. And it went from 150 to 60 kids, because all he did was worship nights. The next guy came in, it was very much like the very first guy, and it went back to 500 overnight. Because he understood that you have to create an environment for every kid. It doesn't have to look perfect. It can be messy. It can be chaos, and chaos is this. Children have another operating system. Anybody under 18 and younger have operating systems that are way out of whack, because they're learning, but they don't live within their realm. They don't exhort that onto you. They're not gonna say, you need to do this for me. They just want to know that you know what their learning style is, and you're creating environments for it. So it very much may be that you start out the night with a game. But what if you changed it up and the game wasn't the beginning? The game was right smack dab in the middle. But you started off with an introspective time where it's like journaling. And then you didn't go right into the word or to worship, you went into something else, where there was community and people got to talk with each other. You just changed it up a little bit. Not changing it up all the time, because kids do like consistency. Mm-hmm. They want consistency, especially children's ministries. If you're changing up all the time, that chaos turns into even more chaos. But as you learn things, like one of the things that I learned, we had a lot of kids in my church in Washington that were special needs kids. And we started to see a lot of autistic kids come to our church. And some of it was, I didn't know this, but on my team, as I took over, there were 2 people that worked in special needs in the local school. Well, those people were so amazing with them. That's how I learned this. Is one of the people that was on my team happened to know a church group that needed to come in and do, and so they wanted to use our space. She's like, we have a great space, let them come in. Well, she was so good with the special need kids. I was like, I need your input on things, because we have kids coming in. We have Josh. Josh was an escape artist. Josh got all the way up to the adult service one day. Somehow got past security. And we had what I felt like pretty good security. Josh got past. So pastor's preaching a pretty serious message, and he's doing some jokes, but people were laughing really hard. Well, Josh had got onto the choir riders and was smacking the microphones all the way down like it was a thing. And they would do a dance. And he goes, smack another one, smack another one. Well, his mom's sitting on the audience appalled. And then all of a sudden, security came in. They're trying to be as quiet as possible. Well, Josh is one away from security. So pastor's preaching this serious message. People were laughing in the back. And he's like, what are you guys doing? This is important. This is serious. And finally, his mom started walking up to the stage, and he turned around and he goes, Joshua. And Joshua ran and jumped into pastor's arms. The pastor preached the rest of his message. And Joshua wasn't a small kid. Joshua stayed right here next to pastor. Well, guess who went to pastor's office right after church? Me. He's like, David, I get that he got past you. We got to make sure that, one, for his protection. Like, what if he would have got out to the parking lot? Something would have happened. But two, I'm trying to preach people up here. So I sat down with his parents and said, what does Josh love? Well, Josh was infatuated with clocks. I also had a bunch of leaders that were going over time in their segment of teaching. So I gave Josh a clock and a service order. And at 1 minute, he had permission to tell the leaders, you have 1 minute left. And when they were done, if they weren't done, he had permission to stand up and say, you're done. Real quick, we have well-prepared leaders who didn't want to be told by a young kid that you're done. Josh eventually grew into our kindergarten, first grade, elementary room moderator. And he would help the leaders when they come in and understand all the things of the service, the flow. And he would say, okay, so today we have this, and we have this. It also made our leaders be more prepared when they came, because they no longer could hold their paper anymore because Josh would let them. No, they could fold their paper tucked in their Bible, but they couldn't hold your paper anymore. Found a kid that was slightly autistic, who loved Jesus, who just needed an opportunity to be involved in something. Had a conversation with his parents. Parents are not our enemies.
Yeah.
They're our friends, especially when it comes to their kids. How do they learn? The kids that frustrate us the most, where they get in trouble, we just need to have a conversation with mom and dad. How do we help them?
Yeah.
Because they're just looking for somebody that says, how do we help your kid? Because the school districts want to kick them out.
Yeah.
We got to create an environment where that kid can grow and flourish, because they need Jesus just as much as somebody else does. And I love that there's churches that do special needs ministries for kids elsewhere. I think they should be part of the big group. They're going to be with us in heaven. Why can't they be here with us on earth?
Yeah.
And they had some excitement too.
Yep.
Sometimes they say things that we want to say.
Yeah.
They say. So as you create environments, as you pray, honestly, go back with your teams. If you don't have teams, talk with parents. Because then you can build a team through the parents. We want to minister to your kids in a better way. And really, there's places online on Google that you can find some of the teachings from Howard Gardner, Gavin book. Honestly, I did a disservice to it. I mean, there's so much more to it. The person that taught the first time was far better than me. As I travel around and spend time in local ministries, especially as district director, where I would spend time with my youth pastor, oh man, I just want to hit it with my kids. Have you ever considered trying it differently? Or thinking about the kids in a different way? So instead of thinking of them as just faces, thinking of the way they learn. Thinking of the way that they grow. And then you can develop a place where they want to be every week, and they'll invite their friends, and you'll see life change happen. And so as you do that, as you work through that, I would encourage you to just bring people on the journey. The more people involved, the funner it gets. The more fun it gets.
Funner's good.
Funner's better. Funner. So, any questions? If you got people that are seeing a lot of kids, whether it be a small church, large church, just consistent kids, have a conversation. I said in the last session, we need each other. So you got people faces here, exchange. Don't make camp the only time you see each other in conference. Make throughout the year, set up times to talk. And I know Aaron and his team do stuff to try and create connectivity points throughout the year, but he can't be the facilitator of everything. We got to do that. We got to ask questions to our peers. But when we make a phone call, sometimes it can be encouraging someone, because they might be like, man, if nobody calls me, then I'm quitting. All of a sudden you call them and you're asking questions about how they do stuff in ministry. Like, man, I'm blowing it every day. But you you see me as I'm doing something good? You wanna come be my friend? So, love each other, lead each other. I'm thankful for this opportunity. If you, as you think through stuff, you know, and you got questions, I'll give my number out to anybody. I've given it to quite a few people already today. I'm not by any way, shape, or form a professional at this. For 17 years in the local church, I blew it a lot because I missed the sometimes missed created environments. But as we bring people involved, it helps people keep a check on us a little bit. I make sure we're creating those environments. Like I'm almost a specialist that makes sure your environments are up on it. This is the fun part of being a director at camp. Coming in as a kids pastor for 17 years to become the DYD that oversaw youth camps, to change things up, and I'm so thankful for the pandemic because there were a lot of things that got killed, and I felt like, man, these are dumb games. Game like Amazon Woman. I got to kill that really quickly for multiple reasons, but I watched little junior high boys get tossed by college girls to the Trinity girls. You know, they're tough out there at Trinity. I watched this little boy, he was in the front row, like she just, anyway. He was not a fan of that game. You could tell the whole time he was trembling. He's like, I'd rather be playing video games. I don't want to go outside. But again, pray through this, talk with folks, create environments where your kids will encounter God in a life-changing way, and you'll begin to see fruits that you've never seen before. Because when a kid knows that you've thought about them before they got there, it changes everything. Because we know I know my youth pastor constantly thought about me. He's like, how do I keep David away from the girls? And so, but for me, when I was thinking about kids as I was preparing lessons, like even including them in the lesson, you know, that mover and shaker, little kid, Daniel Clare, when we first got to Bozeman, Montana, we had about 11 kids total in our ministry. And Daniel came, and he was on the spectrum. And Daniel, the room was split up and they had chairs. I don't know why they had chairs for a small amount of kids, but Daniel would run from this side of the room on the chair, off the wall onto the chairs, and jump to the other side to see how far he could get. And then when worship would start, they had a psych with the projector, that projector on it. He would go in the back and do hand motions on the back. And I quickly learned that Daniel also loved computers. So Daniel ran media. Daniel was put into a box. But Daniel loved running media. Daniel became the person to train our media people. And it was just, you just find those things out, you do things like, and their parents found out about health issues and food allergies and all that stuff. And anyway, learn your kids, love your kids. And the way, when you can write down their names on something, when they come automatically, that means you're doing, you know, good kids. Sometimes we might think a kid is one way, but your leaders know that they're actually another way. That's where your leaders come into this. So. Anything? Any questions, thoughts, comments? If I did a good job, don't clap. Just give me money. See, no money. So, but I thank you again for allowing me to speak into your lives today. And again, as you minister here in North Dakota, find people to do ministry with. You said in the last session, it's a big neighborhood with long streets, and when you get to see your neighbors, it's always nice. So, Mr. Rogers, this thing. All right, bless you guys. Thank you.